Born on 7th October 1952 in St. Petersburg. Studied law at Leningrad State University. Rose to the ranks of lieutenant colonel. He is now Russia's longest-serving president. This is the story of Vladimir Putin's rise.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX Explained with me, Uday Pratap Singh. Today on Explained, we break down the rise of Vladimir Putin, the Russian president. Let's take a look at this old interview that Putin had given to CNN back in September 2000 to Larry King. He was asked what happened in the Kursk 2000 tragedy.
Tell me, what happened with the submarine?
Она утонула.
He's almost sneering, almost proud of his own wit as he answers a question about the Kursk submarine tragedy, an accident that killed 118 Russian servicemen. So how did a man who once displayed such brazen dismissiveness transform into the stony, controlled, patriotic figure the world recognizes today? How did this man rise from a KGB spy to Russia's president? And how did the man manage to hold power for more than 2 decades? To be precise, 23 years. Today we will not begin from the beginning. Let's take you to the moment when he was made the president for the first time. This is the night of December 31st, 1999. As the century turned, so did the fate of Russia. Boris Yeltsin unexpectedly resigned and handed over the sprawling, nuclear-armed Russian Federation to a relatively unknown former spy. The camera has captured a stiff, almost reluctant Putin standing next to a visibly emotional Yeltsin. Here is how he started his first address as a Russian president.
Дорогие друзья, сегодня, в новогоднюю ночь, я, как и вы, с родными и друзьями, собирался выслушать слова приветствия президента России Бориса Николаевича Ельцина. Но вышло иначе.
This unwelcoming and stiff address could be because Russia was on the brink of collapse when Yeltsin handed over power. The oligarchs were running the economy, the Second Chechen War was underway, terrorism was rising, and public trust in the government was virtually zero. Putin wasn't just stepping into office, he was stepping into a burning building. That pressure showed, but it was not always that he wanted to become the Russian president. Putin stated in various interviews that he originally aspired to become an airline pilot with Aeroflot and planned to enroll at the Civil Aviation Institute of Leningrad. Masha Gessen, in Putin's biography, The Man Without a Face, The Unlikely Rise of Vladimir Putin, wrote that Putin's interest shifted towards a career in intelligence after being influenced by Soviet-era espionage media, such as reading biographies of notable intelligence figures such as Richard Sorge and Jan Burzin, and watching the 1968 film series The Shield and the Sword and the 1972 television series 17 Moments of Spring. A wrestler at school in St. Petersburg in 1971, he started having a romantic desire to become a KGB agent and serve his country incognito. Perhaps the perfect job for someone who liked to avoid the limelight. In January 1974, Putin was approached by Colonel Dmitry Ganserov of the Leningrad Committee for State Security, or the KGB Personnel Department, tasked with identifying promising university students for potential recruitment in Leningrad State University's law faculty. Hence, his intelligence journey began from 1975 to 1991. Putin was recruited by the Leningrad Directorate of the KGB, serving initially in the 5th Chief Directorate, responsible for domestic counterintelligence, before transitioning to the 1st Chief Directorate, which handled foreign intelligence operations. From 1985, for 5 years, Putin was stationed in Dresden, East Germany, serving in KGB's Foreign Intelligence Unit. Stationed in fact, recently his old East German secret police identification card was discovered in the Stasi archives. Stasi was the State Security Service and Secret Police of East Germany. During his time in Germany, he oversaw the recruitment of illegal agents and coordinated activities between the local KGB office and the Dresden branch of East Germany's Ministry for State Security, or Stasi. In this tenure, he witnessed the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the collapse of Soviet power in 1988. In Putin's eyes, Russia lost just 2 million square miles of territory. Probably at this time, he learnt the cost of a weak state. In 1990, he left active KGB service officially and became an advisor to Anatoly Sobchak, the liberal mayor of St. Petersburg. By the mid-1990s, Putin moved to Moscow and began working in the Kremlin. His career advanced rapidly. In 1997, he was appointed deputy chief of the Kremlin's property management department. In 1998, he became director of the Federal Security Service, the KGB's successor agency. In August 1999, He was named the Prime Minister of Russia by President Boris Yeltsin. He was already accusing the US and NATO of undermining the post-World War II international order. Let's listen in to what he said in May 1999.
На сегодняшний день группа государств предпринимает активную попытку изменить сложившийся после Второй мировой войны международный миропорядок. По существу, дезавуировать все договоренности, которые были достигнуты странами коалиции после Второй мировой войны.
In September 1999, a series of apartment bombings killed hundreds in Russia. The government blamed Chechen separatists. Chechen leaders denied it. But Putin responded with a tough military campaign in Chechnya. He appeared on television and uttered the line Russians still remember, "We will hunt them down everywhere. If we find them in the toilet, we will wipe them out in their outhouse." Crude, unfiltered, ominous and strangely reassuring to a population desperate for strength. Putin's approval ratings doubled almost overnight. Then he became the president in December 1990 and first elected president of Russia on March 26, 2000. He assumed office on the 7th of May, making his formal entry into the Kremlin. After securing almost 53% of the vote in the first round, polls suggested that most Russians wanted economic stability above all else. Putin's basic message to voters was that he would make Russia strong again. Putin's first presidency is typically narrated with the landmarks of economic stabilization, the rise of oil prices and the silencing of oligarchs. But the more intriguing story lies beneath the surface. Take, for instance, the case of Mikhail Khodorkovsky. He was once a multi-billionaire and one of Russia's leading industrialists in the oil sector. Shortly after publicly confronting Vladimir Putin in 2003 over high-level corruption in the oil industry, Khodorkovsky's company Yukos, then Russia's second-largest oil producer, was seized and later dismantled by the government. Later that year, he was arrested by Russian security forces and imprisoned for 10 years, finally being released in December 2013. Another lesser-known element from this war was his use of information control. While Yeltsin struggled with media battles, Putin quietly secured loyalty from key TV networks, most importantly NTV, which had been frequently critical of the government. When oligarch Vladimir Gusinsky refused to cooperate, a fraud case appeared. Negotiations were held. Gusinsky eventually fled. Russian television shifted, and with it, public perception. Meanwhile, Russia's elite slowly transformed. The businessmen of the 1990s who made fortunes overnight were replaced by Siloviki, which meant men from the security services, military, intelligence backgrounds. Putin was not merely building a government, he was building a structure of loyalty. Interestingly, when Putin restored the Soviets' anthem melody but added new lyrics, power for Putin is not just political, it is historical. In the then Russia, a president can't serve more than 2 terms consecutively. Hence came his temporary exit as president in 2008. Dmitry Medvedev became the president. During these years, Putin cultivated another element of his persona, the action hero imagery. Riding horses shirtless, tagging tigers, diving into lakes. Many Western observers called it an optic to revive the archetype of the strong Tsar. His return to the presidency in 2012 amidst the unprecedented protests. Since Vladimir Putin came to power, Russia has launched major military invasions into 2 sovereign countries, Georgia and Ukraine. In 2008, Russian forces entered Georgian territory during the brief but decisive war over South Ossetia and Abkhazia. 6 years later, in 2014, Moscow annexed Crimea and fueled separatist conflict in eastern Ukraine, culminating in the full-scale invasion of 2022, the largest military assault in Europe since World War II. The Russia-Ukraine war still continues with seemingly very less light at the end of the tunnel. Across the conservative, right-leaning political spectrum, Vladimir Putin is often admired as the ideal strongman. Disciplined, hyper-patriotic, culturally conservative, and unafraid to defy the liberal world order. Many leaders quietly envy the authority and mythic control he projects at home. Donald Trump captured this fascination most tellingly in 2013, tweeting ahead of the Miss Universe pageant in Moscow. Do you think Putin will be going to the Miss Universe pageant in November in Moscow? If so, will he become my new best friend? It was a joke on the surface, but beneath it lay a clear truth: the global right's desire to mirror and befriend the Putin persona. But his persona is not the only thing that leaders envy. Vladimir Putin has built one of the world's most feared cyber armies. A vast state-backed ecosystem of hackers, intelligence operatives, and digital mercenaries capable of disrupting governments, crippling infrastructure, and manipulating public opinion. This network, often linked to units like Fancy Bear, GRU Unit 26165, and Cozy Bear SVR, has been deployed as a strategic weapon of modern warfare. Born 7 years after the end of the World War II, Putin was born following the siege of Leningrad that killed his elder brother, in which his parents barely survived. He was brought up in a crowded communal flat which shared kitchen and bathroom, teeming with rats and cockroaches. Friends and acquaintances remember the young Putin as clever but self-contained, a sort of grey cardinal. From this introvert boy to amongst the most talked about leader of the world, this 73-year-old Putin has come a long way, and who knows how much further he will go.
Born on 7th October 1952 in St. Petersburg. Studied law at Leningrad State University. Rose to the ranks of lieutenant colonel. He is now Russia's longest-serving president. This is the story of Vladimir Putin's rise.